In a previous video, I gave you little Inkweavers a checklist to help streamline what you need for your story. But how do you come up with your characters and the worlds that they live in? How do you come up with the premise for your story and the details that you want to include? This is Kathleen Lyons here at the Magic Library, and today we're going to be talking about brainstorming. So, shameless self-plug before we get started, Animae Nexum is set to drop April 26th, sharing the same birthday as our Borealux. Today is the last day for pre-orders, and that link is going to be down in the description below. I'll spend the next week fulfilling those orders from my shop, but you can probably still order it on Amazon if that's the route that you want to go. You can use Astroblood15 to get 15% off your order when you use the code in my shop. The link for that for my shop is going to be down in the description below. And with that, let's get on into the video. So today we're going to be talking about brainstorming, but what exactly is brainstorming? AMD.org defines brainstorming as a collaborative or individual creative process focused on rapidly generating a large volume of ideas for problem solving or innovation without immediate evaluation or criticism. When we're talking about writing, brainstorming is what I like to call the experimental cooking phase, and I'll explain what that means. When you're cooking a new recipe or you're wanting to try different things and record the results, much like how scientists do with their hypotheses and experiments. This can be done with writing. When you're first coming up with your story, this is the phase when you're coming up with ideas, asking questions, and coming up with creative answers. This step is essential for coming up with any of the things on the checklist that I gave you. So, what kind of questions do you ask yourself when it comes to writing? Well, there are quite a few, and there are some that are more relevant than others depending on what kind of writer that you are. Here are some questions that are a good starting point, and you can add questions as you go. What kind of story do I want to tell? What kind of world is suited for that story? What goals do my characters have? Does this idea mesh well with this idea? What's keeping my characters from reaching their goals? And what growth is there for my characters as they move forward? These questions will lead to follow-ups that will help you to flesh out your story and more ideas and plot. In brainstorming, you also have to think about a possible series of events for your story. An easy way to come up with plot is a method that Star talks about in her book, How to Webcomic. I've talked about it on the channel here before. That method in particular is using because statements instead of and then statements. Let me explain how this works. When talking about a story, talk about the series of events as more cause and effect instead of just listing them off one by one. Let me give you an example. I'll use events from Animae Nexum to illustrate this. Don't worry, I won't be spoiling it. For anyone who wants to buy the book, it's just an example of stuff that happens early on in the story. An example of and then statements is like this. Silas is left at the barracks as a child, and then he meets his cousin Eldrick. Years later, he and his comrades go on patrol and they meet the Astroblood Lux in the Pale Woods. And then he takes her to the city where she can be safe. This just seems boring and it's leaving out a lot of details and intrigue. It just seems like he's a leaf tumbling in the breeze with no real purpose to anything. And that is a major disturbance to how I've written Silas and Luxalia respectively. Let's try rewording everything, but doing it with because statements instead of and then statements. Because Silas is left at the barracks as a child, he meets his cousin Eldrick, who is his support initially for the entirety of the story. Years later, because he and his comrades go on patrol, he ends up meeting Lux in the Pale Woods. Because Lux is an Astroblood, he takes her to the city where she can be safe. Using because statements to describe a series of events provides flow for the story. If you're having difficulties trying to come up with a plot or finding out why a character would do something, try restructuring using because statements. Like I said before, this tip comes from Star's book, and it's helped me a lot in how I write. So go check out her channel, The Starfish Face, for more tips on writing and storytelling as well as artwork. I highly recommend it. So now is probably a good time to give this week's tip of the week, which is your life outside your writing helps you to influence it. It's time to get a bit metaphysical and talk about the correlation between fact and fiction. There are a lot of things that can influence what you can come up with while brainstorming, and most of those influences will come from the media you consume as well as the experiences you have. These influences and experiences are what build people up into what they are and shaping their views and opinions of the world around them. Using some of my own writing as an example, I've noticed I've always tended to gravitate to writing stories about self-discovery, about harrowing odds, and discovering ones through true power. Being a bit vulnerable here, but those stories come from a place where I felt like I was more putting on masks to appease others instead of accepting myself for who I was. Writing about characters who are able to discover and accept themselves is a bit cathartic for me, as well as a love letter to my younger self to be happy with how you are and that you don't need to change anything about yourself. So all of that to say, whatever experiences you have, use them as inspiration for your own writing. The stories we write are a part of ourselves, and using our experiences to influence our writing brings a sense of realness to it that resonates with others. Whew, okay, I think we'll leave the video there for now. I did not mean for it to turn so somber there at the end, but I hope this video was helpful when it comes to brainstorming. If you have any questions about brainstorming or any other topics, make sure to leave them down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for more videos like this in this series. Share this video with other aspiring authors too, and if you're wanting a community to join for conversations, writing discussions, and a funny meme or two, you can join the Inkweaver Clan Discord server, and the link for that is down in the description below. If you're interested in reading any of my books, you can check them out on my shop. I have signed copies as well as bookmarked boxes, which include a signed copy of the book or books depending on the set, a series of 5 prints I actually drew for this series, 2 bookmarks, and a sticker pack that I also designed. Also, right now I have a coupon code for all the stuff in my shop. You can use AstraBlood15 for 15% off all orders when you use it at the Magic Library shop on Square. Link for my shop is also down in the description below. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this video. This has been Kathleen Lyons here at the Magic Library, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!